We are learning the laws of Maisa Carbonis, laws in the Holy Temple, on how you did the offerings. Okay, so all sacrifices in chapter 4. Baruch atah Chelam Shakel Barei.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh. So may be offered only during the day. That can be inferred from the verse. On the day when he commanded the children of Israel to offer their sacrifices. Implied is that during the day and not at night. Therefore, sacrifices are slaughtered only during the day, and their blood is sprinkled on the altar on the day of the slaughter. It can be inferred from the verse, on the day that he offers his sacrifice. Implied is that on the day sacrifice is slaughtered, it should be offered. Okay, it should be offered. When the sun sets on that day, the blood is disqualified if it's brought on the altar then. As long as the elements that cause the sacrifice to be permitted were offered during the day, the other elements of the sacrifice would be offered on the altar throughout the night. Oh, what is implied? What does that mean? What does that mean? When the blood of the sacrifices is sprinkled during the day, their amurim, which are the parts of the animal, may be offered on the fire of the altar at night until dawn. One second. The fats and the inner organs of the animal that are offered on the altar. I think it needs to be placed first on the altar before the sun goes down, but it can burn. Because here it says offered on the fire on the altar. I think it means it can stay on the altar. But again, it should be placed on the altar before. Similarly, the limbs of the burnt offerings may be offered on the fire of the altar until dawn, in order that to distance a person from inadvertent transgressions. Our sages declared that the amorim, the limbs, and the burnt offering should only be offered on the fire of the altar until midnight. Right. It's the first Mishnah, actually, in Brachas, right? The very first Mishnah, right? Because it's speaking about the Shema, and when is the Shema said you can say it until dawn, but the rabbi said until midnight, so you shouldn't make a mistake, just like with the fats that go on and the parts that go onto the altar can stay until midnight. No, the Shema from Mariv. That's the mitzvah Shema, right?
The morning was till what time?
3 hours a day. 3 hours of the day. Now it's around 9:30. It depends what time of
What the latest?
9:30 a.m.
Latest is 9:30 a.m. for tefillin.
No, Shema. Shema has got nothing to do with tefillin. It's different mitzvahs. The tefillin throughout the day. But Shema is a different mitzvah. We bring the mitzvahs together, right? But they're separate mitzvahs.
I'm saying if.
No, so. Okay.
There was a boy in the Zohar. He says this guy said the Shema date. It says, how do you know? He says, Shema smell. In the Zohar, it smell.
Halacha number 3. Even though the amorim and the limbs of the sacrifice may be offered on the altar at night, they may not be willingly delayed. Instead, an attempt should be made that the offering everything during the day, for it's desirable that the mitzvah to be performed in designated time. The importance of this can be seen from the fact that the offering of amorim and the limbs of the sacrifices on the fire of the altar supersedes the Sabbath prohibition on that day. We do not delay this until Saturday night, right? In other words, very simple. Shabbos, you're allowed not personal offerings, but communal offerings to bring on the altar on Shabbos, even though, what are you doing? It's fire, right? You're allowed to do that. We don't say delay it until after Shabbos, because it could be after Shabbos, which sounds over here that it means that you could even place it after Shabbos.
Never understood that. How do they light the fire?
No, the fire is already lit,
So they do it from a,
but still you can't, the fire is already lit, but you can't take your chicken and put it onto the fire on Shabbos and cook it, right? But you can put these things, I mean, they're being burnt up completely, so it's not being cooked for eating in any, right? But still, we don't do that. But you're allowed to do that for the sacrifice. You might say delay it until Saturday night because you could do it during the night, right?
Yeah.
We don't do that. So, which is a proof that don't delay at any time doing it during the day. Nonetheless, it could go until midnight, right? Biblically, it can go until dawn, but rabbinically until midnight, right? An element of the sacrifice may be offered only during the day. Any element, of the sacrifice that may be offered only during the day. Example, a handful of flour and meal offering, the frankincense of the meal offering, the incense offering, the meal offering that are burnt on the altar may be offered on the altar until sunset. They continue to be consumed on the altar's fire in the entire night, like the limbs of the burnt offerings. So here he says it clearly. It's got to be on the altar before sunset, and they can continue to be consumed by the altar's fire during the night, just like the limbs of the burnt offering. So, meaning to suggest that it should be started at least before.
What is when they say libation? Is that the flour? The flour is
No, a libation is a meal offering, right? And with the oil, and separate from that is the wine.
it could be meat.
and salt.
Libation.
Libation means a liquid, something liquid.
Or liquid.
Libation is liquid.
Having company here.
Well, now I was going to say, number 5. The libations that are offered with sacrifices are only offered during the day, as it says, and for their libations and their peace offerings. Associated between peace offering and libations. Just peace offerings are offered only during the day. So to libations must be offered during the day. That's interesting. Why are peace offerings only during the day? I guess because if you show a white flag at night, you don't see it. Nevertheless, the libations that are offered independently may be sanctified at night and offered at night.
Sanctified at night, offered at night. You said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sanctified because they sanctified when you put the libation into a measuring cup. That sanctifies it because the measuring cup is, right?
Okay.
Since they're not associated with a particular sacrifice, there are no limits as to when they can be offered. Right. In other words, if the libation is coming with an offering, so then the libation needs to be during the day. If the libation is offered independently, then it can be at night. Therefore, if it happens that a person obtains libations that are brought independently, he should sanctify them at night and offer them at night. Dawn disqualifies libations as it disqualifies limbs of the burnt offering.
He prefers it during the day.
In other words, if it comes to him at night to offer it, do it at the earliest time, so do it at night as a first option, right? And as don't wait till the day if you can now make the offering now at night. And again, it's independent of bringing it with another offering. Okay. The entire day is acceptable for smicha. Smicha. Oh, we just learned about smicha. What's smicha?
Slaughter.
No,
Putting hands.
putting your hands on the animal, right? Slaughter, severing the fowl's head, malika, right? Offering objects on the altar is fire, bringing a meal offering to the altar, sprinkling blood on the altar, waving sacrificial offerings, taking a handful of meal offering, bringing of the musaf offering. The entire night is acceptable for offer the amirim and the limbs on the altar's fire. You're working hard, huh? This is a general principle. When a mitzvah is to perform a particular act during the day, it is acceptable throughout the day. If the mitzvah is to perform the act at night, it is acceptable throughout the night. Nevertheless, the eager hasten to perform the mitzvahs, right? Whenever that is. If it's at night, night. If it's day, day.
You don't have to do it for a week, eh? Then it's,
Change.
the next
Yeah.
month. Okay, well, I can manage that.
As initial preference, all the sacrificial animals may be slaughtered only with a knife that is sacred, a utensil. Nevertheless, if one slaughtered with any article fit for slaughter, an ordinary animal, even the edge of a bulrush, it is acceptable. Why is that? Because the act of slaughtering the animal, even though it's going to be as an offering on the altar, can be done, but it doesn't have to be done by a kohen. It can be done by anybody. In other words, it's not part and parcel of the avodah, of the service. So therefore, it doesn't have to be done with a holy utensil, preferably with a sacred utensil. Right. Well, I mean, it has to be something that can do a proper slaughtering.
So painfully.
Exactly. Number 8, whenever one receives less than the amount of blood, needs to sprinkle it on the altar from any of the sacrifices, the blood does not become consecrated. As an initial preference, one should have the intent of receiving all the animal's blood. Yeah, what should be done? One should hold the windpipe and the gullet in his hand, and together with the jugular vein, place them in the basin and slip both of them, or their majority, so that all the blood will be received in the basin. After the slaughter, the knife should be lifted up so that the blood does not flow along it, but rather from the neck. One should wipe off the blood that is on the knife on the outer edge of the basin, so it goes inside the basin, right? So all the blood, this way you can get as much blood into the basin. No, it's coming
Oh, that's
from.
where he sprinkles, okay.
Number 9, the space of the basin is considered as is if it is inside the basin. If one receives blood of the sacrificial animal in the bottom of the basin open before the blood reached the open space of the bottomless basin, the blood is not consecrated. The rationale is that the blood enters a space in which it will be ultimately not come to rest. It's not considered as if it came to rest. I'm not clear what kind of basin you have that doesn't have a bottom to it. In other words, even though it comes, what's he explaining over here, that it comes into the basin, it becomes consecrated. But that's only if the basin has a bottom to it. If it doesn't have a bottom to it, even though it passed through the basin, it doesn't become consecrated, right? That's the point over here. Okay. Number 10. With regard to all the sacrifices, the person performing the service must have the intent of offering the proper type of sacrifice for the sake of the person bringing it in the time of slaughter. So even though an Israelite could do the slaughter, but he has to have in mind what he's doing this for, right? When he's slaughtering it, what kind of sacrifice? Who am I bringing it for? At the time also, the blood is received. At the time, you have to also be mindful of what you're doing, what it's for who it's for. At the time the blood is brought to the altar, and the time that it's sprinkled on the altar, as indicated in the verse, in the meat of the Thanksgiving peace offering, implied that the slaughter, together with the 3 other services, must be made for the sake of the peace offering. Similar concept apply with regard to other sacrifices. In other words, the meat, right, has to be for the Thanksgiving peace offering, meaning that you're mindful that it's for that purpose. So likewise, all the other 3 things that we just mentioned, slaughter, taking the blood and sprinkling the blood on the altar has to be with that notion. If one slaughtered the animal and performed these other services without any intent, without thinking at all, oy, oy, oy. That's like davening without thinking, right? You did an action, but you weren't mindful. This is acceptable for the burnt offering, the peace offering, and the owner is considered to have fulfilled his obligation. So the Rambam's words, it sounds like that's only for the burnt offering and peace offering, but not for the sin offering and the guilt offering and the paschal sacrifice.
Can we bring that into the shul?
I'm okay. I mean, if it's bothering you, so go ahead.
No, it's okay. As long as it's okay with you.
Even though there's okay, big question is over here in the Rambam. So there's there's having proper intent, which we spoke about previously. Now here's having no intent. Now there's having wrong intent, like you thought, oh, this is a peace offering, and you were thinking it's a sin offering. That's wrong intent. That is disqualified, right? This, in this instance, is not disqualified in the burnt offering and the peace offering. But by the sin offering, it would be. Number 11, at the time of the slaughter of the animal designated as a burnt offering, the person who offered it must have 6 things in mind, right? That the animal will be slaughtered for the sake of the desired sacrifice. Okay, 6 things. For the sake of the desired sacrifice, right? That it's a peace offering, not a sin offering, for example. For the sake of the person bringing it, that you're doing it for this person and not another person. That it be sacrificed unto God, blessed be He. That it be consumed by the fire. That's what you get, right? That its consumption by fire be for the sake of generating a pleasing fragrance to God. And that the fragrance be pleasing before God. Well, that's generate fragrance, and that fragrance is pleasing to God. Those are 6 things. And if you slaughtered the animal without any intent, it is acceptable, as we just explained, right? One who slaughters an animal as a sin offering or a guilt offering shall have intended to sacrifice for the sin that he committed. So now you added something over here for the particular sin that you committed. You have to have that in mind. Okay, let's do one halacha in the next chapter. Chapter 5. We already explained the slaughter of consecrated animals is acceptable even when performed by non-Kohanim. The slaughter, right? We said that. From the receiving of the blood and onward, the mitzvah is that of the kohen. Right? The blood of all the sacrifices must be received in a sacred utensil, held by a kohen's hand. Nevertheless, the place where they are slaughtered and their blood is received is not the same in all instances. Was implied. Okay. Sacrifices of the most sacred order may be slaughtered, and their blood may be received in any portion of the area designated as the north of the altar. This is north, over here. Here's the altar, north of the altar, up here. That's where it can be done, right? Whose boundaries is defined in the beginning of the book. Sacrifices of lesser sanctity may be slaughtered and the blood received in any place in the temple courtyard in the Azara. This is the Azara over here. So here is the holy ones. Lesser holy ones can be done anywhere over here. All right. All right,
Thank
folks.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Have an amazing, great day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day,
You too.
everyone.